My husband walked out on me, convinced I was nothing without him. He had it all, his career, his new life, his future. He told me I'd struggle, that I wouldn't make it on my own. But now? It wasn't a fight. It wasn't a dramatic argument. It was just a piece of paper on the kitchen counter. Divorce petition. No goodbye. No explanation. Just a cold, written confirmation that my marriage was over. I stood there, staring at it, my hands trembling. My chest felt tight, but I refused to cry. Then my phone buzzed. A text. Him, I'll be by later to get my things. You should start figuring out how to take care of yourself. Like that was it. Like I was just an inconvenience he was finally free of. I clenched my jaw. He thought I was helpless. That I wouldn't survive without him. He had no idea what was coming. Because this wasn't the end of my life. This was the beginning of something much, much bigger. Looking back, I should have seen it coming. My husband wasn't always cruel. In the beginning, he was charming, ambitious, someone I thought I could build a life with. But over time, things changed. It started small. Little comments. Are you sure you can handle that? Maybe you should leave this to me. Dismissing my ideas. If I suggested something, he'd wave it off like it didn't matter. Slowly isolating me. I lost touch with old friends, stopped making plans without checking with him first. At first, I made excuses. He's just stressed. He doesn't mean it. But deep down, I knew the truth. He never saw me as his equal. I wasn't his partner. I was his backup plan. Someone who took care of things at home so he could shine. And the worst part? I let it happen. For years, I convinced myself that I needed to be the supportive wife. That my role was to stand in the background and let him lead. But the moment he left, I realized something. I had spent so much time building his dreams. I had no idea what mine even were. That was about to change. For the first time in years, I was alone. No husband. No safety net. Just me. At first, it was terrifying. I sat in my quiet apartment, staring at the half-empty closet where his clothes used to be. His side of the bed was untouched. The house felt hollow, like something had been ripped away. But then I realized something. For the first time in years, I didn't have to ask for permission. I didn't have to walk on eggshells. I didn't have to shrink myself to make someone else comfortable. I could do anything I wanted. But there was one problem: I had no idea where to start. I had been a stay-at-home wife for so long that I hadn't built a career. He handled our finances. I didn't even know how much money we had in our accounts. The old me would have panicked. But not this time. Instead, I made a list. Step 1, find a job. Step 2, take control of my finances. Step 3, do something for me, something I never had time for before. I started with the job. I sent out dozens of applications, but rejection emails flooded my inbox. My resume was almost empty. Employers didn't care that I managed a household. One interviewer even asked, "So, what have you actually done?" I clenched my fists under the table. What had I done? I had supported a man through years of promotions, helped organize events, handled finances, managed schedules, problem-solved daily. I was not useless. I just had to prove it, to them, to myself. And when I finally got my first job offer, it wasn't glamorous. It wasn't high-paying. But it was mine. And that was the beginning of everything. I started small. The job wasn't glamorous, just an entry-level position at a marketing firm. I was the oldest person in my department, surrounded by fresh college graduates who could navigate spreadsheets in their sleep. But I didn't care. Because for the first time in years, I was building something for myself. The first few weeks were tough. I was rusty, overwhelmed, doubting myself every step of the way. Then, one afternoon, my boss dropped a project on my desk. "We need this proposal ready by Monday. Can you handle it?" It was short notice. Complicated. A test. The old me would have panicked. The version of me that had spent years letting someone else take charge would have asked for help, doubted herself, backed down. Not this time. I stayed late, researched, worked harder than I ever had before. I poured everything into that proposal. By Monday morning, I handed it in. My boss barely glanced at me as she flipped through the pages. Then she paused. Looked up. "You did this?" I nodded. My hands were clenched into fists, waiting for her to tear it apart. Instead, she smiled. "This is impressive. I'm presenting this to the board." I walked out of that office, heart pounding. Because for the first time since my husband left, I wasn't just surviving. I was winning. While I was rising, he was falling. At first, I didn't check up on him. I didn't care. I was too busy rebuilding my life to waste a second wondering what he was doing. But then, one night, I got a message from an old friend. "Did you hear about your ex?" I hesitated before responding. "No." "Why?" A minute later, a link popped up on my screen. His company had gone under. The same company he always bragged about. The one he left me for. Gone. I clicked on the article, my hands steady. Apparently, his big plans had flopped. Bad investments. Lawsuits. A complete mess. And then, a sentence that made me pause. Former CEO, his name, has yet to comment on the company's collapse. Sources say he has also split from his fiancée. His fiancée. The woman he left me for. The woman he thought was so much better. I should have felt something, anger, satisfaction, even pity. But I felt nothing. Because while he was watching his life crumble, I was sitting in my new apartment, sipping wine after a long but successful day at work. He thought I would fall apart without him. But I was only getting started. It started with a text. Him, "Hey, how have you been?" I stared at the screen, almost laughing. How have I been? Where do I even begin? I had my own place. A career. A life. I had built everything from scratch while he had lost everything. I didn't respond. But he didn't stop there. The texts kept coming. Him, I wanted to talk. Him, I made mistakes. Him, can we meet? Each message reeked of desperation. He wasn't texting because he missed me, he was texting because he had nothing left. I ignored them all. Then, one evening, my phone rang. His name lit up my screen. I let it ring. Once. Twice. 3 times. Then, voicemail. I clicked play, expecting some weak apology. But his voice, it was shaking. I messed up. I see that now. I thought leaving was the right choice. But I was wrong. You were the best thing that ever happened to me, and I didn't realize it until it was too late. I exhaled slowly. I don't expect you to forgive me, but please, just talk to me. Silence. Then. I miss you. I smiled. Because for the first time in a long time, I realized something. I didn't miss him. Not even a little. I didn't respond. Not to his texts. Not to his calls. Not even to his pathetic, "I miss you" voicemail. I was done. But he wasn't. A week later, I was coming home from work when I saw him. Standing outside my apartment building. I almost walked right past him, like he was a stranger. But he saw me first. Wait. He stepped forward, looking nothing like the confident man who once walked out of our marriage like I was nothing. His suit was wrinkled. His hair wasn't as perfect. And his eyes? Hollow. I just want to talk. I crossed my arms. About what? He swallowed hard, like he wasn't expecting me to be so unbothered. I made a mistake. I tilted my head. Which one? His jaw clenched. He knew what I was doing. I was stupid. I thought I could do better. I thought you needed me. But, turns out, I needed you. I almost laughed. Needed me? Where was this energy when he left me with nothing? When he was busy living his new, upgraded life? I let the silence stretch, watching him squirm. Then I sighed. Look, I get it. You regret your choices. But that's not my problem anymore. His eyes widened, like he truly thought I'd drop everything and run back to him. So that's it? You're just over it? I smiled. Yes. He blinked. He wasn't ready for that answer. But I was. Because for the first time in my life, I was in control. And I wasn't looking back. He wasn't ready to give up. I thought that after I shut him down outside my apartment, he'd get the message. But no. The next morning, I woke up to another text. I get it. You're mad. But can we at least have coffee? Just to talk. I rolled my eyes. Then, a few hours later. I just want to explain. Please. Then, that night, a call. And another. And another. By the time I checked my phone, I had 15 missed calls. He was spiraling. The man who thought I was useless without him was now acting like he couldn't function without me. I didn't respond. But the next evening, he showed up again. I was walking home from work when I saw him waiting outside my building, hands in his pockets, pacing nervously. I sighed. This was getting pathetic. You need to stop, I said the moment I got close enough. I just want a chance to fix this. His voice cracked. He looked desperate. Like a man who had nothing left to lose. I raised an eyebrow. Fix what? The company you lost? The fiancé who left you? Or the wife you walked out on? His throat bobbed. That hit him hard. You don't understand, he whispered. I don't have anyone left. I tilted my head. Sounds like a you problem. Silence. For the first time, he looked at me like he was finally seeing me clearly. Not as the woman he left behind. Not as the person he thought would fall apart without him. But as someone who had moved on. And it terrified him. I let the silence stretch. For the first time, he was the one waiting, nervous, uncertain, afraid of what I would say next. I made a mistake, he whispered again, voice shaking. I see that now. I tilted my head, pretending to think. Which mistake? Leaving me? Or thinking I'd still care? His face fell. He looked wrecked. I was stupid. I thought I could do better, but... I held up a hand. Stop. But... No, my voice was steady. Cold. Final. You didn't just walk away from me. You made sure I felt worthless when you did. You wanted me to believe I couldn't survive without you. I took a step forward, watching as he shrunk back. But guess what? I leaned in slightly, just enough for him to see the calm, absolute certainty in my eyes. I'm not just surviving. I'm thriving. His breath hitched. You thought I needed you? No. You needed me. And now? You're nothing but a bad memory. His jaw clenched. His hands curled into fists like he wanted to say something, but he couldn't. Because I was right. And he knew it. I exhaled, then gave him a small, polite smile, the same way you'd dismiss a stranger. Goodbye. Then I turned and walked away. I didn't look back. And for the first time since this all began. Neither did he. It's been a year since that night. A year since I walked away without looking back. A year since I stopped caring what he thought. And in that time, I got promoted. Twice. Turns out, the woman he thought was useless was actually pretty damn good at what she did. I moved into a better apartment. One with huge windows, sunlight pouring in every morning, something that always makes me feel free. I found real happiness. Not in someone else. In myself. And him? Last I heard, he moved back in with his parents. No job. No fiancé. No direction. I never answered another text. Never listened to another voicemail. Never gave him one more second of my time. Because I realized something. I didn't need revenge. I didn't need to rub my success in his face. The best payback? Was living a life so good, he would never be part of it again. And that's exactly what I did.